Okay. So this tutorial is about building macros in Excel. And we're going to apply this to a Monte Carlo technique to have some statistical evaluation of how likely of if there's any statistical meaning in the direction that our animals are moving, right? So as I was saying, in this column here, I have all the directions that humpback whales were recorded going in 2018. And for a Monte Carlo method, what you need is a parameter. Well, you need data, and then the second thing is a parameter. What exactly do you want to measure? What is the value that you're going to judge the significance of, right? So if you're comparing two averages, then, well, no. If you're comparing the height of two groups of people, then your parameter is the average. So you calculate, so you sum up all the heights from one group and divide it by the number of people in this group. You do the same for the other, and then you compare the averages, right? And so this is and you get in a complicated formula, and you get the t value. And this t value, then you can look up in tables and see how likely it is that you get this t value by chance, right? So Monte Carlo techniques are the same. You need a parameter. It's just that you have to make up your own parameter, and this parameter is crucial, right? Because the rest is technical, but choosing this parameter needs to have some scientific logic behind it. So I was looking at this, and in this particular case, I was looking at the radar, at the spider graph, and I could see that most of the movements were in the west to east direction, right? And so I did the calculations, and as you see this is how you count, okay? You count how many animals are in each of these directions, right? Here I have used this may be interesting for you. I have done this automatically, and so I have used this frequencia formula, which is very powerful because it automatically calculates how many animals, how many data are in each of the categories, right? So for instance, there is only one between 0 and 45. There are 11 between 45 and 135, which is going east. Now let me show you how this frequency formula works, because it has a trick. Now, so I've just erased it, and I'm going to put it again. So this is something that works as a matrix. So you cannot type this formula here and just copy it here and copy it here and copy it here. It has to be done as a whole, right? So that's the first point. So what you need to do is, so I've set up and I've seen, okay, for animals going north, they may be traveling between 0 and 45 degrees, or between 350 and 15 and 360. So I'm just considering for this case, because there were so little, the small number of animals, I'm just considering animals going north, east, south, or west. Okay. So, and I've put the limits here, and now to type the frequency, to type the formula, frequency formula, I have to select all the boxes where I want the formula to go, before start typing, I need to select all the boxes where I want it to go, and then I type and then I type the formula. So it will be frequency in Portuguese. Sorry. So I have to go here. Sorry. This is all wrong. Again, let me start again. There. So I go here and I type frequency, and I choose frequency. Okay, and now I'm going to give it, where is the data matrix? Where is the class matrix? So the data matrix is this one. So I'm just going to select this. Okay, and there you go. And then I'm going to select what are the bins, okay? Where are the limits that I'm going to put those numbers in? So I select this. Okay, and I close the parentheses, and the trick is here. Instead of pressing enter, you need to press Control Shift Enter at the same time. So I'm pressing Control, I'm pressing Shift, and I'm clicking Enter. Okay, this is something that it's really hard to get from Excel tutorials, because they never say so, or they say somewhere. So that's why it is important. So two things: it is important when you write the formula. It is important that the formula is that you select all the boxes where you want the formula to go, and then when you finish typing the formula, you, instead of enter, you press Control Shift Enter, and there you go. So now what I did was, here I've just made up a formula that ticks, because the north, those animals going north had to be put in two boxes, one from 0 to 45 and the other from 315 to 360. Then I have to bring them together here. So that's what I did. So east is just 11, but north is 1 plus 1, right? Okay, and then I've calculated wrongly. Oh, yeah, whatever. So I've calculated the frequency of this. Okay, so these two. So the formula here counts how many observations I have, and then divides the number of that I've seen by the total number and calculates a percentage. So in summary, what this model does, and it should work with, if you put your data here, what you have to do is type this frequency formula here, and eventually adjust this, because this is counting how many observations you have, and if you have more than this, you have to adjust this formula. So but just adjusting these formulas, this should work. Now when I looked at this frequency, what I saw was that there is animals growing east. Half of the animals were going east. So my question was, half of them, so 50% of the animals were going east. So my question was, how likely is it in 22 observations that 11 of them are going east, right? And I don't care if it's east or north or south or whatever. So my question for this model was, how likely is it that from 22 movements, 11 are going on the same direction, whatever the direction is. So I chose as parameter, there you go, the maximum percentage of movements in one quadrant, whatever that quadrant is, right? And so I've put up here an actual formula. So this formula looks up the calculations we've just done and sees what's the maximum value. For the model, it doesn't care. I don't care where what the real direction. It's just any direction. How likely is it to have 11 animals going in the same direction when you have 22 records? So that's my parameter. And of course, in the methodology, this has to be justified, and it has to explain what the reason was. Now, so that's my parameter, and my model then. So in Monte Carlo technique, you have a parameter, and then you have a model where you're going to simulate the null hypothesis, right? And the null hypothesis is that the animals are moving randomly. No, they're just milling around, going in any direction possible. And then I use this to calculate how likely is it, if they're going in random directions, how likely is it that half of them are going in the same direction? Okay, so what I have here is random numbers. Okay, so I've replaced the 22 animals, sorry, the 22 directions with 22 random directions. So this is a formula that Excel has. It calculates a random number between 0 and 360. So I'm just asking Excel to calculate, to give me 22 values, 22 directions randomly, right? And then I have the same kinds of formulas here, the frequency and the pointing and etc., and the calculations, etc. And so if, as I say here, if you move something, if you change something in this formula, in this sheet, Excel would recalculate the random numbers, and the sheet will do all its calculations and give you another graph, right? Then another graph, and another graph, right? And if you look at the parameter here, you will see that it changes, right? It's 30%, it's 33%, it's 38%, and 38%, and 42%, right? And 45%. Whoa. Okay, so randomly, we have what? We have 10 animals going east, just randomly. 45%, 35, 38, 40%. Now 40% of the animals are going west, and so forth. So this is your model. Okay, gives you, it calculates your parameter based on the null assumption that there is no preferred direction for the animal movement. And now, whoa, look at that. So just randomly, you can have 12 animals going in the same direction. Oh, so how likely is that? Okay, to understand this, you have to do the distribution, the random distribution of this parameter. That's why you need a macro, because I mean, you can do it by hand, right? You can just write 60, and then you press delete somewhere here, and you write 33, and then you press delete and you write 35. You can do this by hand, but doing this 100 times is time consuming, and you would say the rest of the semester to do this 1,000 times, right? So you need a macro, you need Excel to do it, and Excel will do this while you go out and take a coffee, right? And stretch your legs, and then you come back, your calculations will be there. So this is the tricky part, and what I have here is the results of, so you need some place to put. So right, so what do you need to do basically? I will just erase, this is the results I got. I will just erase this. And because this is where I want my random distribution. So that's what I need. I need a place to put my values, that the values that Excel is calculating using its macro. So what do I want to do? So you have to think when you want to create a macro, this is where, Laura, this is where you get into the macro, okay? When you want to create a macro for this kind of exercise, so for a Monte Carlo, you need a place to store the value, your parameter, because you want to know the distribution, so you need to repeat this often, and then take the number and store it somewhere. And we're going to store it in this sheet here that I've called distribution, right? So what do? You have to think and you have to do it. So I'll take this value, I'll copy this, but note, this is not a number, this is a formula, right? So when you go here, and if you paste it, you will get a stupid answer, right? Because you've pasted a formula and it's looking for the maximum value of something that doesn't exist. So that's why, I have this note here that we need a preliminary step, right? So we need to go here, copy the value and paste it here as a value, right? So I need to paste it here using the, I need to paste it here, just a second, using this, and then, I've lost the, Excel is a pain. I've lost this, so let me try this again. So I'll copy this, I come here, and I select this, and I go to base and say, well, I want to copy just the values. Okay, and there you go, 33.7. So we need this. So this is the first step. We take just the value from the model and put it here. And now, remember, this is going to be automatic. So the system is going to be doing this often and often and often. So next time, if we say, okay, repeat this 1,000 times, what you'll end up is with one number, because all the 1,000 numbers will be stored in this place. And that's not what you want. You want a list. So you need a second step where you copy this value and you put it, say, here. Okay. But what you need to be careful, because you don't want just to paste it here, because you want to build a list. And so what you have to do is to insert it here. Okay. Moving the other cells down. Okay. So it's not obvious what this did, but let me repeat that, because that's what the macro is going to do. The macro is repeating what you've just done. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to recalculate this. I'm going to copy, I'm going here, I'm going to paste the value here. Okay. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to insert it here, moving the cells down. And now I have two numbers, right? The previous one and the one I just copied. Let me do that again. So I have a new number already. So I'm just copying it, pasting the value here, and then copying it again and inserting the value here. And so on. You can have fun and do this for 1,000 times. Or you can ask Excel, okay, I know what I want, so I'm going to teach you to do it. Right? This is where macros come in. Right. So how do you do that? How do you teach macro Excel something? Well, macros are hidden, I think, here on C for some reason. And there's a box here, there's a menu here for macros, right? And you can see macros, or you can record your macros. And that's what we're going to do. So basically a macro is a recording of actions. You do the action when you start recording. So it's like a tape recorder or a video recorder. You start recording and you do what you want the macro to do, right? And then you stop recording. That's the first step. That's what we're going to do. Okay. So, and of course you have to be very careful. You have to think about this, because as soon as I press record, then Excel will record everything that I do. And so I want to make sure that the macro is as simple as possible and as accurate as possible. So I think everything is set. So I'm just placing recording. I need to give it a name. I can give it a shortcut. I don't want to bother about that. So I'm just saying, okay. And now it's recording. Anything I do now will be recorded. So I'm going to repeat what I've just did. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to move to the other sheet. I'm going to paste here just the value. So far, so good. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to insert it here by moving the cells downward. And I'm going to say OK. And that's it. That's my macro. I'm going to vir macros, and I'm going to stop recording. Okay, right? So let's see if it works. So I can go here and go to macros again. There are ways to make this simple, but let's keep it simple. So I'm going to see macros, and I have my previous macro, which I called Monte Carlo, and I have this macro one, which I just recorded. So I'm going to say, yeah, I want to run this macro one. So there's a button here that says run, and I'm going to press it. And I have a mistake, right? So I don't know where this freaking thing went. Yes, I know. Okay, let's learn with the mistakes. What's wrong? So obviously the program copied something that was empty, pasted it here, and then pasted it there. So this part is working. The part that isn't working is what to copy. Let's look at the macro, because you can actually look at the macro. Okay, and so instead of run, I can edit it. And when I edit it, I can see what's written in there. I would like to increase the size of the cells, but I can. So I see the problem here. So let's take a few. This is only complicated at the first look. What you have here is the text of the macro, and the first line says range D6 select. The second line says application cut copy mode false, selection copy. Okay, so what we're saying to Excel is select the cell D6 and copy it, which was what we just said. What we didn't say the macro is where is he going to copy it, right? Because there are several sheets in this book. If you look at the fourth line, it says sheets, empty distribution, select. So this tells Excel to go to the empty distribution sheet and select this distribution, this sheet, and then go to A2 and select that, and then whatever, right? So the problem with this Excel, with this macro, is that I didn't tell it where the parameter is going to be copied. Okay, don't worry, we can just erase this macro and do another one. Yeah, so macro one, I don't want it, so I'll just eliminate it, and I will do this again, but this time I will not make the same mistake. So what I will do is I'll start from here, okay, so that I can then select the other sheet. So I'll record a new macro, which will be macro 2, fine. And now, there you go. I am selecting this sheet, empty model. I am selecting D6. I am copying it. I am selecting this sheet, and I am pasting just the value here. I'm selecting this value, and I'm inserting it here. Okay, there you go. Now I will stop my macro 2. Okay, let's run it. Okay, macro 2, run. There you go. See, it went to the, we didn't see it, it was very fast. So but it went to the other sheet, selected the value, brought it here. Okay, again, that's nice. We've simplified this. We could give it a shortcut, and we will need to and we would only need to do control whatever, and it will run the macro, right? There you go. But even doing that 1,000 times is too much work. So I just wanted, this is the crucial part, Laura. I just wanted to repeat this for a certain amount of times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the formula. Yeah. So I'm going to edit the macro to tell it to do this. And I'm going to use, you are seeing the macro editor, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we're seeing.
Okay, good. So we are going to put a very simple formula here. Well, actually, a formula that has two parts. The first part is this one. For I equal 1 to 10. That's the first part of the formula. The second part of the formula, well, not the formula, an instruction, is next I. You can put any letter you want. So what this does is the macro will create a variable called I, will give it a value of 1, and then will run. And when it gets here to the next, when it gets to the end of it, to the next I, it will change the value of I to 2, and then we'll start again. And when it comes to the beginning of the macro, the macro will see if 2 is bigger than 10. Since 2 isn't bigger than 10, it will do the macro again. And then we'll change 2 to 3. And then come here and see that 3 is still smaller than 10 and do the macro again until the I is 10. And when I is 10, it will see that 10 is not bigger than 10 and we'll do the macro for the final time, because when it changes I to 11 and then it comes to the top again, it will see that 11 is larger than 10 and it will stop. As simple as that. We can close the macro editor because it's part of the Excel sheet, so the information will not get lost. So we just close this, and now when I run the macro, so C macros, and I run it, it is working. You don't see it, but it is working. You can probably see the little ring here turning. So the Excel is calculating. It's taking so much time. Oh, there you go. Right?
So one question.
Yes.
Yeah. We couldn't get why. I mean, in the last page of the Excel, I mean, your azimuth, they are made like aleatory, but in our case, the azimuth values are some real values.
Wait.
Okay.
Maybe what I'm going to say next will help you clarify this. So, but what I want you to understand is that this is the distribution of the parameter of the model in conditions of randomness, aleatorio, okay? So if the animals are moving randomly, this is the distribution, this is the maximum percentage of animals that will be moving in the same direction, okay? And we can now, these are just numbers. I can list them. Sorry, I can list them like this, and I can see, well, you know, I have 30 and 31 and 33 and 40. Oh, there's 55. So I now have 17 numbers, okay, and one of them is bigger than 50, right? Which was what we saw. So Inigo, what you have to make a difference is between what you have. So this is my distribution. Okay, in this case, this is humpback whales. In your case, it will be another species. And this is the value that I saw, the percentage that I saw of animals moving in one single direction, in this case, east. And I want to ask, how likely is this to happen by chance? Now, what I have here is a distribution made by chance, right? I took the 22 animals, put them moving randomly, and saw where they were going and how many were going in the same direction. And I repeated that 17 times. Okay, and one of them was 55. So how likely, so my statistical question was, how likely are we to get a value of 50 or larger by chance? And you have here the elements for an answer. You get values of 50 or larger once every 17 times. And that's your probability. Okay?
Yeah, okay, I get it now. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. So of course, and this means, and your probability there is 0.058, right? So this is about 6%. Statistically, you don't consider if the probability of something happening by chance is larger than 0.055%, you don't consider it significant, right? So the probability needs to be below 5% for you to say, whoa, this is unlikely to happen by chance. This is purely artificial, but that's a conventional number. Of course, now, and that's it. It's finished. That's what you do. So you take your numbers and you calculate your probability of getting the number you want or larger. Now, the point is 17 is too small, probably, right? I mean, 5% is 1 in 20. I didn't even make 20 repetitions. So I may want to do more than 20, 100, 1,000. If I make 1,000 repetitions, then I can be pretty sure of the probability I calculate instead of having just 17. So what I did was, how do you do that? By now it should be very simple, right? You go to the macro. And where I have 10, I would put 1,000. That's it. And then you press go. And then you go out, and at least in my computer, you can go out, you can take coffee, you can relax, you can stretch, you can go around the block, whatever, and when you return, you'll have 1,000 numbers there. And then you can go to your table and calculate your percentage. So in this case, yeah. In this case, I have a very, perhaps a bit complicated formula, but the idea was that this formula was meant to make this automatic. So you can do it just by hand. You put your numbers in order and see how many of the 1,000 are 50 and above. And you have your probability, and then you can answer your question. Is this likely to happen by chance? In this case, well, in this case, I think we could say, if I remember correctly, in this specific case, we could say, well, maybe, right? Because the number is not very different from 0.06. So yeah, I mean, when you have the probability is very small, you can be pretty confident that, yeah, well, no, that's not impossible. That's impossible to happen by chance. But with 6%, maybe not. So I wouldn't place much confidence in saying that whales, in saying that with these elements, I wouldn't place very confidence in saying, whoa, humpback whales are moving east when they are in the Azores. We don't know. We really don't know. We need more data. So that's it. Laura, do you think you can try to repeat this?
Yeah, I will try then.
Okay. So I think that you don't need, you certainly do not need to record a new macro. So what you would have to do is you would put your numbers here, and it may be more than this. So let me go through you. How would you do it? So let me say
Try that, but there was one formula that divided one parameter by A26. That is when your data finished. So if I have more data, then it doesn't work.
yes. So what you need to do is, first of all, so you have all these. Oh, by the way, here I am only using 4 quadrants. You may want, if you have lots of data, it's better to use 8 quadrants. So in that case, you will need to do all this by alone. But if you want to use just these 4 quadrants, the first thing that you need to do is to change the formula here, because this formula is just pointing to the first 22, right? So the first thing you need to do is using that
Vamos a
technique.
hacer de sobra esto.
Disme?
No, disculpa.
Ah, desliga o microfone. So what you would need to do is you would need to change this formula, and instead of A5 to A26, you would need to go here and select all this. So that's the first thing. I think that's the only thing you need to do. No, that's another one. So you need to copy this, and then press Control Shift Enter. Oh, what the heck? Never mind. I'll do the formula again. That's easier. I'll do this again. There's something wrong with this. So I'll just erase this and all. So you need to put this formula here again. So it's igual frecuencia. Frecuencia. Hello. And you say, well, it's this. You take the data here, all of this, and then you take the bins, which are here, and then Control Shift Enter. There you go. Right now the parameter is 150%, because when you're counting, to make this automatic, what I did is it takes 6 and divides it by counting, yes, and it's only counting the first 22. So I need to change this formula too, and I need to change it. So I need to go here. Let's hope this time it works. I need to come here and say, no, it's not this, it's this. So I need you to count this. Oops. To count this. And I am pressing F4 here. And the reason I'm pressing S4 is you see, maybe you see the dollar signs behind the numbers and the numbers. So this makes it a fixed reference. So, okay, so what this formula does is it calculates, where was I? What's wrong with this? I don't know what's wrong with this. What did I do wrong? I don't know. I'm supposed to have selected all this, right? And so I'm supposed to have pressed F4 and then enter. Oh, there you go. I did some silly thing. and then I will just copy this down. Okay. Since I have more data, I have changed the frequency here, and I have changed the calculations, the counting, so that it knows how many cells to count. And I think the model should pretty much work. Oh no, of course. Now here you need to extend this, and here you need to do the same thing. In your model, you need to add, just in the model, you need to add more numbers. So at least as many, you need to have exactly as many random positions, random directions as you have in your real directions. And then of course you have to do the same thing again, right? Changing the frequency here, calculating the absolute frequency, and then calculate the relative frequency. But then it should work, because the only thing that the macro does is taking this value and put it here and blah, 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 and repeat it 1,000 times. Right? So
Okay.
if you do this, it's a bit time consuming, but at least you don't need to change if you don't change the position of the formulas, if you don't add lines or extra columns, if this number is still here, then that's all the macro that needs. And so you would erase all this. From my sheet, you would erase all this, and then just press the macro, and there it goes.
Okay, now I understand. Thank you.